I like to tell people I'm the Uber of higher ed, right? You tell me who you want. You tell me, like, we'll go find them where they're
We'll
streaming.
pick them up.
We will pick them up. We will drop them off. And then your website will then pick it up from there. They'll fill out your forms. And then it's up to you to get them inside to have dinner with you.
If you've tested streaming ads or connected TV and thought, well, that didn't really work, you're not alone. But what if I told you that TV is no longer just a brand play? It can actually be a measurable, personalized performance channel. So on today's episode, we're breaking down performance TV, what it is, how it works, and why it might be the most underrated tool in your enrollment marketing toolkit. Joining me is Jennifer Lonchar, co-founder of AmbioEdu and one of the first to bring digital marketing into higher ed. She's here to help us rethink what's possible when you combine TV, personalization, and AI. Jen, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you.
Let's start with the big question in case performance TV is new to anyone listening. What exactly is performance TV and how is this different from traditional TV ads or even things like YouTube pre-roll?
So performance TV, we call it performance TV because it's measurable. It's streaming. I mean, it's OTT and CTV, which most people are familiar with at this point. So it's the streaming commercials that you see when you're binge watching your favorite show. The difference is that we're measuring it from first ad exposure all the way through to enrollment. So that's the performance piece of it, right? And it's different than traditional linear, which linear ads are those that appear somewhere at the same time to everybody, right? At a prescribed time. So that would be the 7:30 on Thursday night before Friends. You see a commercial that's linear. I'm dating myself by saying that, but that's
I'm sure there's lots of Friends fans on.
lots of Friends people. So that'd be linear TV. So in the past, you had to cast a wide net because you were doing linear TV. You don't really have the very finite targeting that you have with streaming and with performance television. And of course, then we'll kind of get into that too, like the AI built into the background. But it's all performance driven. It's flipping the script on streaming and getting people to think beyond the brand. So beyond branding and, like you said in your opener, getting down to being able to drive inquiries, applications, event registrations, deposits, working on summer melt, you name it.
Let's talk about that because I think a lot of people listening perhaps have tried streaming ads before. Perhaps they were doing some brand messaging on it and they didn't really see those results come in on the enrollment side. So what's different now? Why do we need to revisit this idea of connected TV?
A couple things also with connected TV. I think that one of the things I always forget to mention is that these ads are unskippable, right? And if you're streaming, maybe you're frustrated about it, maybe you're not frustrated about it. The nice thing about it is that they've changed it and they usually come in what's called pods, 1 minute, 30 seconds. So we usually get 3 30-second commercials. They're unskippable. So for the first time ever, we have an opportunity to be front and center in the living room of a student and their family when they're relaxed, when they're watching their favorite show. And there's a reason why TV's been around as long as it has, because it creates a lift, an overall lift. It does something for your brand. It does something for your brand trust. We have that capability now to kind of skip over all of the noise that's out there. Digital has become a very crowded space. And I would never come in and say, don't do digital marketing. I mean, I'm a digital marketer. That's what we do. We're a full service agency on the back end. I would never say don't do it. But what I would say is that throughout the years, it has become a very crowded space. And I got to a point, in my career where clients were saying, we're just not seeing the same type of results that we used to see with digital. And what can we do? What can we do different? And the digital team or, the strategists would say, well, they need to spend more money. They need to spend more money. It's a very crowded space. And that can't always be the answer to things. So there has to be a new and different way to do it. CTV and streaming is a place right now where we are with streaming where digital was 15 years ago in higher education. So there's more ad space available right now with streaming than there are actual advertisers.
I notice that when it happens to me because sometimes I'll see a brand repeated or a commercial repeated often while I'm watching one show.
Over and over again, right? You see it all the time. And that's something too, like in higher ed, we need to be very cognizant of that. So that is a frequency capping problem right there. And making sure that we're being with students gently persistent and not overly aggressive with our ads. But what I would say is in the past, I wouldn't be surprised if someone came to me and said, oh, we didn't see results. The reason why is because this market, it's a complicated market. It's a very fragmented market historically. And if you want to go to Hulu, you have to go over here to Hulu. If you want to go to Amazon, you've got to go to Amazon, right? And when you have a fragmented market like that, which is how digital used to be 15 years ago, it becomes very challenging to A, optimize anything. You can't because your contracts are spread out. And B, how do you measure anything if everything is so fragmented? That was a big differentiator. And in the past, I will always ask people like, okay, you've done it in the past. Let me guess. The only metrics that you ever got from it were completion rates and impressions. People were like, yeah, how can we make decisions off of that, right? Those are vanity metrics. And what I tell people is that, at the end of the day, what I care about is it putting butts in seats for you? And vanity metrics are fine, but we want to go deeper than that. We want to see how many of these students did we actually influence? How many students do we know saw your commercial, went to your website, like Googled you, went to your website, and then did something, whatever it was, they interacted with you in some way. And at the end of the day, if you can show that and you can show that proof point, that speaks volumes, right? We've taken all those different providers and we've pulled them into one place. So essentially created a DSP where you've got your ESPNs, your Hulus, your Disneys, your, Rokus, Plutos, all the streaming platforms in one place. So now we have the ability, because they're all in one place, to target and optimize exactly how we would with digital marketing. So we have all those same tools in our tool belt now because all those providers are in one place. So contextual targeting, behavioral targeting, list-based targeting, household targeting, mobile device ID targeting, you name it, it's there. We've got AI built into the platform on the back end too, which I know we'll get to in a few minutes, to help optimize that reach and that frequency as well.
Tell me more about that targeting. I'm really intrigued. There's all these options, and they're familiar probably to a lot of people, but what works? Like, what are you seeing for some of your university partners? What's really working in terms of that targeting?
So what I love to do personally is high school targeting. One of the big things that we can do is we've actually gone out and proactively over the last couple of years, we've polygoned, which is drawing a virtual fence down to the latitude and longitude location, every single high school, every community college, and every four-year university in this country. So we've been collecting and maintaining device ID data from all those schools. So at any point, a school can say to me, Jen, here's our top 100 high schools that we've continually gotten students from over the years. I can say, okay, great. Out of those, 100 high schools, we've got 1.5 million devices that we've recognized. We don't target on those devices. What we use those devices for is that we use that mobile device ID to identify the households where those students live. And then we can push those commercials right into the homes of those students. So we're getting in front of the students and parents. But then we can even take it one step further and say, okay, that's great, but let's say we only want households that have over 100,000 or 150,000 income, or we want to make sure that it's households that have a 16 to 18-year-old living in them. So those are the types of things we can get very granular with that targeting. That is my favorite thing to do, because when you're getting in front of fresh eyes like that, you are generating a tremendous amount of web traffic, new eyes, new applications, new inquiries. And what we see with schools that we're working with when we implement something like that in the fall, not only are they getting in front of those seniors that they need to reach, but they're also starting that brand identity much sooner in the process. So what'll happen is you'll see this like trickle down effect. So then come next fall, the schools will say, well, we're already up in inquiries and we're already up in applications year over year where we were last year, just from doing this last fall, because we've started that brand building much earlier. So I like it because, as you know, we tend to be very reactive in this industry instead of being proactive in what we're doing. So I like to say that it's allowing schools to think that they're being reactive, like they're doing what they need to do in the moment, but secretly they're also starting to build that brand awareness much earlier in the funnel. So you kind of kill two birds with one stone, which is really nice. But then you can layer in lists, right? So any lists that they have inquiries or prospects they want to load into the funnel, they can do that. You can use this for advancement as well. I mean, think about, you have alumni at your fingertips, alumni information. If you're doing fundraising, capital campaigns, and you want to get into the households of people easily, you could use something like this. So I also love doing lookalike as well. So I'll say to schools, send me your last 3 years of incoming students, just their home addresses. I don't need any personal information. We'll create this great demographic report for them. And then we can tell our platform, go out and find households that look just like this, that we know have a 16 to 18-year-old living in them. And then let's layer in certain elements like discretionary income or political affiliation or highest level of education in the home. We can get pretty granular with it.
You just mentioned a couple examples for an advancement campaign or getting in front of students early so you have an inquiry lift early on before you even get to college application season for that incoming class. Share an example with me where you really saw the turning on performance TV had a really big impact on an enrollment outcome.
Yeah, so I actually have one school right now. We just did a transfer campaign with them. So this is like a fresh new example.
Sounds like it was handy to put those circles around every single community college and other college and university in the nation.
100% that we did it. And we literally focused on there were like 8 community colleges near them. We focused on those 8 community colleges and then the communities surrounding. So households that had an 18 to a 22-year-old in them. Within the first 30 days of the campaign, we got on our reporting call and they were like, is this voodoo magic? What are we doing here? Because we had 27 applications within the first 30 days and 42 completed applications within the first 30 days. That was definitely a
those are good. Those are solid numbers for transfer. Absolutely.
Solid numbers. Yeah. And we had another school last year who, for 2 years in a row now, we had a school who hadn't made their enrollment goal in a very long time. 15 years is a long time to not hit your enrollment goal. And last summer, I met with the marketing director at Case in Chicago, and he was telling me kind of their woes. And I said, you know what, let's just throw a Hail Mary and see what we can do late in the game here and see if we can. He's like, if you can get me 5 students, I'll be happy. They ended up making their number for the first time in 15 years. And he was like, I know it was this because this is the only thing I turned on, like the only thing I did.
Yeah, it was the only thing different.
And so they not only got 5 students, they made their goal for the first time in 15 years. They made it again this year.
Wow.
Yes. And
Good
so
for
that's
you.
super exciting. Thank you. And then just talked to another school, a big public university that did it again. It was a transfer campaign late in the summer. And this one was funny because they said, yeah, we did get some transfer students, but I have to tell you, we're 300% up in applications right now, year over year. Whoa, why is that? And so that speaks to, I like to say, like the magic of TV. Again, there's something that it does for your brand and it creates this lift across the board. Every time we do an undergrad campaign, we inevitably see a lift in other areas. So grad, anytime we do a grad campaign, we also see a lift in undergrad. It's just how it works because you're hitting the household, right? So you're getting not only students, but you're getting adults and parents and things like that who might be interested too.
So is that one of the key things that you look to measure is that lift, whether it be with inquiries or applications? And how do you help schools be able to see through to whether there's been that impact or not?
Yeah, so 2 things. So one thing that we do when we serve up commercials in the household, we're collecting numerous points of data. We're collecting timestamp information that commercial was shown, the device ID it was shown on, the IP address. But then ultimately what we're able to do is recognize down to the household level that household ID. And the household ID is really just a series of letters and numbers, but it never changes. And it is tied to every device in that household, all the IP addresses that are associated with that house. What's nice about that is because we do everything on the household ID, it doesn't matter where the devices are located that are tied to the house. So if somebody sees a commercial in the home and then takes an action on their phone and goes to the website the next day, we can tie that back, that conversion. We call it a soft conversion. But then what we've developed is we have a patented platform on the back end that is a device graph mapping system that allows us to translate that household ID into actual home addresses. So at the end of the campaign or mid-campaign, we're able to take your actual students and tie those home addresses back and be able to say, yep, you sent me, here were 1,000 actions that happened during the course of the campaign, whether they were inquiries, applications, deposits, event registrations, anything that came in, you sent me 1,000 of them. We were able to match back 85% of those that we know were exposed and went to your website and did something during that time period. So we are measuring that. But we can also look at lift. So we can do an incrementality snapshot. So we can say, okay, here is 60 minutes before your commercial was shown. This is what's going on your website 60 minutes before. here's what happened immediately after your commercial was shown, and then the 60 minutes after, so that you can see the impact that it has and how long it takes people to actually convert. And those are the types of things we can look at too, is that time decay. How long is it taking people? How many times do they need to see your commercial before they're
Before
actually
something happens. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we can show that information as well.
I'm wondering about the creative of it all too. So it's one thing to have this great targeting and great tools for measurement to be able to know what kind of success or effectiveness you're having on enrollment. What are you seeing on the creative side? Is there anything that's working in particular? What helps people get really great creative in that performance TV format?
Yeah, so we can help with creative. So I have an entire production team that my head of production has been ingrained in the film industry for years and years and has been a production on a lot of different shows and movies in the past. So he's got a lot of experience in that space. A couple different things. So we can create 30-second, beautiful 30-second commercials using B-roll that the schools already have existing. We add graphic overlay. Because there are some best practices that you need to be thinking about when you're doing streaming, because a lot of people will mute commercials when they come on. So you want to make sure that you have good graphic overlay throughout so that they know what's going on in the background and they see that it's for universities. So I always tell schools, like, at the very least, your logo and your URL constant throughout so that people know what it's for. And the other vice versa is that you want to have a good script. You don't want to just have music playing in the background. You want to have a script going on. Case in point, it happened to me actually 2 years ago. I was in the market for something and I had been online looking at things that were related to that. And I was walking through my living room and heard a commercial on the TV for exactly what I had been in the market for. I don't know why I'm getting that, but whatever. It's apparently
we're getting a thumbs up on the screen if you're listening and not watching in the YouTube video. That was fun.
That was really fun. I don't know where that came
Thumbs
from.
up for performance TV.
There you go.
Jen talks with her hands, I guess.
I do. I'm a big hand talker. So it's actually, we laughed about this yesterday on Zoom because they have all these things included too, but nobody seems to figure out what triggers them.
Well, actually, yeah, just something random will happen. Yeah,
100%. So I get balloons all the time. Yesterday I got lasers. Because I
once had someone on Microsoft Teams turn themselves into a leprechaun, and they had no idea how to undo being the leprechaun. So it's fun. It's all good fun.
Totally sounds like something I would do. So I was walking through the living room, heard this commercial. Literally, I had a basket of laundry. Remember, I walked back like 5 steps to look at this commercial, and it was because I was being retargeted by a commercial, which we also do, right? So anything that can come to your admissions pages, we retarget them with commercials as well. So then they start to see it. So it goes above and beyond your original funnel to kind of increase that outreach. But good creative has those two elements. It has good voiceover. It has a good script. It tells a story. The commercials that we see perform really well are coming from a student perspective. So whether you have a student, you don't necessarily need to feature a student in it, but if you have student narrating in the background, those perform really well. I tell people this is the first time in history that we've had a tool that is just like if a student invited you into their living room for 30 seconds and said,
what are you going to do with that? Yeah.
What are you going to do with that?
Yeah.
And you wouldn't just scream a bunch of stats at them and be like, we have a beautiful campus. We have a 13-to-1 student teacher rate. Like, you wouldn't do that. You would say, we're going to change your life and here's how. And you're going to meet your friends that you're going to be friends with forever. And you're going to, you can be in these clubs and you're going to have a advisor that's going to get you your first job and you're going to connect with alumni. And you can say so many different things. And by the way, we have all these opportunities to help you pay for it too. So you're not going to be in debt forever. You can say a lot in 30 seconds. And so they can't turn you off. They have to listen to you. So I tell schools that, I want you to think beyond what you've been conditioned to think over the years.
Yeah. We feel like we have to say it all in just one 30-second spot. Is there opportunity here to almost have a series that ends up happening so that you don't feel like you have to word vomit everything into one script, but maybe you can pace it out to a student?
Absolutely. So we can do that as well. So we have a couple of AI tools at our disposal. So one of them is it's a tool that is used in the movie industry. I'm really excited about it. And this is something we just rolled out a couple of months ago, but it allows us to take scripts and upload it into a virtual focus group. So
wow, that's cool. Yeah.
It's awesome. So this is a platform like some Warner Brothers uses it. They upload their scripts. They say, this is the audience we want to reach. This is who we want. This is going to be interested in our movie. How does it perform? So it's a synthetic audience. And so we now have the ability to do the same thing. We can say, we want students 14 to 17 years old, undecided, living in these areas, interested in this and this and this and this. And we can upload these scripts and get real-time feedback on how they're going to perform. And it's really exciting because we can drill down and actually talk to the synthetic students and say, okay, hey, Allison, what did you like about this commercial? What resonated with you? What do you want to hear more of? And we do see a lot of times coming back, they want student stories. They want information on financial aid. They want information about scholarships and things like that, but they want to hear from the students. That time and time again, it comes back. So those are the commercials that perform really well. I'll tell you, it is a little bit of a challenge because it is a mind flip from what we've all been conditioned for, right? And you know how higher ed is. Nobody wants to be the first one to quote unquote make a mistake or not make a mistake, you know? And so we see a lot of schools that want to get outside of their comfort zone, and they start out with a script that might be pushing the envelope, might be a little bit different, might come from a student perspective. It's funny, by the time it gets through like committee approval, it's back to
I know.
the same thing.
It's that you're the person writing it or the marketing team might be there, but then you start to think about, oh, if a board member hears that, this is what they're going to say. If a faculty member hears that, here's what the email is going to look like that I get the next day after them seeing it. Yeah, so there's a lot of fear around that. Absolutely.
I need to say 90 programs. I need to say this. I need to say that. And we're like, you don't really, because the other thing is too, is that I tell people, you know, when I say we've come full circle, if you think back to like the beginning of digital in higher ed, so 2010, you know, our goal back then was just to get people back to the website. We would talk about retargeting. When I was at Carnegie, we talk about retargeting, and it was, you know, if you could just get 1% of people to come back and fill out your form, it would make a big difference. Well, then Google really enters the picture, and we start talking about do not start a digital campaign without a dedicated landing page. And so that's been beaten into our head for years and years and years. Landing page, landing page, landing page. Not that a landing page isn't good. They are. Dedicated landing pages are good. But for something like this, because this is a big question I get all the time. Oh, we should have a QR code, or we should put, you know, visit us at www.blah, blah, blah, / this and that and the other thing. And I'm like, when you watch TV and you see something you're interested in, do you actually go and type in the website? You don't. They're like, no. What do?
You Google it.
And you Google it, right? You search it. This is no different. So what's really nice about this also is that you don't have to have a dedicated landing page. We're trying to get people to your website. This generation of students is going to do things the way that they want to do it. They're going to do it on their terms. One of the companies that I love, and I know you're familiar with too, and I talk about them all the time, and I have no affiliation with them whatsoever. I don't get paid by them. But what I love that they're doing, and it works really well with what we're doing, is Halda, because they have kind of perfected that game of being able to work smarter and not harder once a student gets to your website and starting to collect different pieces of information. So I like to tell people, I'm the Uber of higher ed, right? You tell me who you want. You tell me, like, we'll go find them where they're streaming.
We'll pick them up.
We will pick them up. We will drop them off. And then your website will then pick it up from there. They'll fill out your forms. And then it's up to you to get them inside to have dinner with you, right? So that's what we're doing, is we're going out and finding them, bringing them to you.
What you're describing too allows people to have different creative for different audiences. So talk to me about personalization and segmentation opportunities, because we can be saying something really different to an admitted student, for instance, versus a high school sophomore, and where they are in their college process. So how does that all work?
Yeah, we can actually do a couple different things. So we can use AI at the top to do high level personalization at the beginning of the campaign. So the creative is all done. So maybe you have a version that's learn more, a version that's apply now, a version that's visit us, a version that's talking about finishing the FAFSA form, like whatever it is.
AI will just like make all those different iterations so that a human does not have to do that. A human has made the core.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. But then the AI can just change out those little pieces. And then on the back end, we can segment the audience however we want. So we can have one group getting this message, one group getting this message. We can even set up triggers. So let's say we have a piece of code on the financial aid page so that we know this audience that's been coming to financial aid. Every week we pull that down, they start getting the financial aid commercial or the FAFSA commercial.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can do that, set that up right from the beginning. So that high level customization. We also can do things too. We have a lot of data at our fingertips. And so I can even do things with like ping data. So if a client is a Slate client and they've got unmatched ping data, so they've got all these students that are coming that are flying under the radar stealth. We don't know who they are. Can you tell us more about them? So a couple different things we can do with that. We can take that ping data, we can match that back at the end of the campaign to be able to tell you like, okay, out of all these stealth people, this is how many we were responsible, we got in front of and touched, and they, saw your commercial and came in. But then also with the data piece, I can give you back home addresses of those ping data people. I can say, go all the way back and be like, okay, these are unmatched ping data that came to your financial aid page. You want to send them a postcard about financial aid, or you want us to take that and push that into a separate CTV campaign or a separate social campaign or whatever it is. We can do that as well. And get down to like, let's run a demographic report on those stealth people. And let's look at your stealth people compared to your people that are actually coming in and giving your information. Is there a distinct difference between them demographically that we're looking at? We're into data, if you can't tell. We love it to help clients be more strategic and, pull that at every stage of the funnel. So yes, the personalization thing is there. The customization thing is there. The creative thing is all there. And then we have AI also built into the platform that is patented to make sure that we're not only reaching the right people and we're going out and finding them, but then also optimizing the campaign as well so that every dollar that is spent is being spent hitting the right people as opposed to just like a blanket message.
Wow. I mean, it checks all the boxes, and we could talk about this probably for another couple hours. Jen and I are friends in the industry, so we could go on and on all of this, but that's all the time that we have for today. So you're all going to have to look at the show notes and connect with Jen to learn even more about all of this. But Jen, thank you so much for walking us through this idea of performance TV and really giving us a glimpse of how it's working. I think a lot of folks are going to rethink how they approach digital marketing and digital video after hearing this. So thanks so much for joining us.
Great. I appreciate you having me, and it's always great to see you and chat with you. So thanks, everyone.
And as I said, if you want to dive deeper, check out the resources in the show notes. And if this episode sparked ideas for you, forward it to someone on your team, maybe your CRM manager, maybe your digital strategist, and start the conversation.